Welcome to the Big Success Show. Today, the top rural small business challenges. Brought to you by FinancialFreedomTool.com. Plenty of money for life.
Tips to be your best with the professor and Mary-Lynn for your big success.
We're coming off a Small Business Saturday where the message is to shop small this holiday season to support small business in your local community. Hi, I'm George Kruger, a.k.a. The Professor.
And I'm Mary-Lynn. Today, we're talking with two big advocates for small businesses in small towns. They're going to share the results of their national survey of rural small businesses.
What do small town people see as their biggest challenges? And what are the solutions? Our guest today will fill us in.
Becky McCrae is a lifelong small-town entrepreneur. She's the founder of SmallBizSurvival.com, which publishes practical articles for rural small businesses. She's also the co-founder of SaveYour.Town, where she shares insights from her real-world experience as a business owner and cattle rancher.
Deb Brown is the founder of BuildingPossibility.com and the co-founder of SaveYour.Town. Deb is a small-town enthusiast and expert for small towns. Her practical approach for getting communities into action right away has been shared at national conferences, local visits, service organizations, and everything in between.
Welcome to the Big Success Show, Becky and Deb.
Yay!
Great to have you.
It's so wonderful to have you both. And I think one thing that's really fun to add is that we all met and became friends at a blogging conference that we went to several years ago. And we all attended, many years in a row. And so this is kind of a reunion for all of us.
Yes.
It is. It's so great to get to talk again. And I know I was on your podcast like a million years ago, like a long time ago.
Yes.
So I'm excited to be back.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Let's dive into this survey of rural challenges that you guys put together.
So the first question we have is this. So let's just talk about the survey itself. When did you do it? Where was it available? And who took it?
We asked rural and small town people what their challenges were, what they most wanted help with, what they wanted us to talk about. So we put it online and we got 680 responses from people that were our own subscribers and visitors who came either to SaveYour.Town or they came to Small Biz Survival. Or either any of our other sites that we work with. You know how bloggers are. We have lots of sites.
Yes.
And then any of the media coverage, or we also had some cooperating groups, people that serve rural communities that shared it around as well. Most of the people were business people or non-business people, but they were mostly small town people in the US and some from Canada and some from Australia. And actually, this is the third time that we have run this survey. We started it up in 2015, and really it was just, I wanted to know what topics people wanted me to write about. So that's what I asked. And the results were great. People just poured their hearts out. And so we shared those results publicly and decided, we should do it again in 2017. By that time, Deb and I were working together at SaveYour.Town. And so this was our third round here in 2019.
Cool.
All right. And let's look at some survey results. And you say that these results don't match common rural stereotypes and media themes. What are the stereotypes?
Well, the media reports that you often hear, anytime they talk about small town or rural people, and we've been hearing a lot about this in our current political cycle, and a lot of it is really politicized. And so you hear things like, oh, rural people are, there's opioid addiction and there's poverty and so it makes it sound like that's what we're really focused on. But really, people tell us they're focused on solutions. And people who, the problem they focus on more than those is like people who seem to stand in their way. And, media reports always talk about how, there's no small business lending and this lack of small business lending is a big challenge in small towns. But really, when we ask them, more small business people tell us they have trouble with marketing. Or finding a usable building, which makes complete sense in small towns. And interestingly, a lot of people, almost as many as talk about lending, talk about just finding a good business idea. So it's definitely different than what gets reported. And then the last one that we like to talk about is always you hear the small town waiting for the manufacturers to come back, right? We're waiting on our factory. But that is not what people told us. People talk about being busy supporting their own local entrepreneurs. So it just doesn't match up at all with kind of the common themes that you hear in the media.
Well, and let's talk about those local entrepreneurs. So small town business owners, this is really zeroing in, I think, on what our audience is probably most interested in is what are those challenges for those small business owners in small towns?
Well, the top five were can't find good employees. That's number one. Marketing isn't working. People buy from online competitors. They've tried opening later hours, but they didn't have any success and they need a business idea. Now, that can't find good employees
Mm-hmm.
was chosen by over 50% of
Wow.
people. And marketing isn't working has consistently been in the second spot, all three surveys. And the online competition moved up to third
Hmm.
from six this year. And it was six in both 17 and 15.
Well, let's try to break some of these down a little bit. When small business owners say marketing isn't working, what kind of marketing are they talking about?
Well, let's talk about that.
Hmm.
They're overwhelmed with online and social media. And there's this belief that newspapers and radio, they're not working anymore. They really don't know how to combine online and offline marketing. And, for some of them that we see, it's clear that customer service is lacking and the store hours they have when they close at 5 just aren't working. Finally, consistency in getting the word out. They're not really doing that. Now, not everything has to be a sale. So we think of branding your business as being very important. Where you want to create an atmosphere in your small town that businesses work together. And that way they can promote each other. And they're not doing that.
So we're talking with you guys right after Black Friday, right after the big holiday weekend. And actually, one of the things we're seeing early on, we saw that they're saying, like this may be the tipping point that digital is really starting to take over, and digital is way up, and bricks and mortar, people visiting stores is pretty flat. So when it comes to small towns, I guess the emphasis here is that big retailers, online retailers, are seeing massive increases, but it is actually, according to the reports I've seen, it's spreading out, and even smaller companies are able to sell more right now. But I guess how can a small town merchant online, yes, sell more online? How can a small town merchant take some steps to get their online business ramped up?
I would love to talk about this because, in fact, I made up a term called rural omni-local to talk about how small businesses in small towns can actually be on all the channels. Big retailers talk about being omni-channel, and so I kind of like omni-local for who we are.
That's great.
Which means that your local business that you run, and I ran a retail store for not quite 13 years, and there's a lot of tricks we can use that help us to capture some of those online sales without having to start like a giant e-commerce site that seems like such an overwhelming thing to do. But one thing you can do is just mention to your customers that they can order from you through their home assistant, whether that's Alexa or Google Dot or Siri on their phone. People can place an order from you that way just by understanding that they're not going to say order a pizza. They're going to say, hey, Siri, send an email to my local pizza joint and order and tell it this, right? So you can teach your assistants to do things like send an email, send a text, or even make a call. And with all of the Amazon devices being able to talk to each other, all those Alexa enabled devices, you can actually set one of those in your store and receive calls from people in that format as well. So it's really smart to just tell your people that are already tech savvy and using these tools, tell them, hey, have you thought about adding our email address or text number and sending us messages, because we'll listen to you. So that makes it easier for people. Just use those tools they already have.
That's a great idea.
I know. I've been talking about that since like 2015.
Wow.
Because I'm thinking
Leave it to you,
so
Becky.
Smart. Because these are, the big companies pay the placement fees.
Yep.
So that if you say something like order a pizza, they're going to default to one of the national brands. But if you tell your assistant, send an email, you can send that email to anybody you want. And people who are tech savvy enough to have these devices tend to be the people who are tech savvy enough to teach them a new skill or a new talent. And so tap their own ability to do that and help them to use that to order from you. I'm also really big on just using some of the other technologies that we have available of like, are you really actually taking emails and texts? And are you available on messengers, instant messengers that are available right now? And all your customers are not only using, but using habitually. You need to be able to receive an order like that online. One of the cool tricks that I like with that is to just take it order ahead, right? So people can send you an email and say, have this order ready for me, and I'll come pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
At 5 o'clock or after I get off work. And so with an order ahead, then you can, as the retailer, that allows you to work it into your time frame, what you have available. You can get that order ready, get it set aside, maybe even ring it up depending on what you sell and whether, I ran a liquor store, so I couldn't ring people up until they actually came to the building. But, you can use the order ahead trick to make sure that they're going to order from you and make it super convenient for people in your community. I'm also a big fan of monthly subscription boxes because, I have a clothing retailer. Her name's Dee Weebner in Alva, Oklahoma, and she puts together the best outfits for me. I walk in and Dee says, I don't know why you wouldn't buy that. And I go, oh, well, this must be one of those that I need to buy. And that's the way I find out, is because Dee tells me that I should go ahead. She could put together the most awesome subscription boxes if she would. Just like, here's this month's cool clothes that you should try on, and then bring back the ones that you don't want. I would even go pick them up. If she would put them together, I'd take them home, or she could put them together and I'd try them on there. But if she did that in advance, for her best customers, wow, how many more sales would she make, just like the subscription boxes do? And that's something you can apply to a lot of different kind of businesses. But there's lots of things that you can work with that allow you to compete with online competitors and yet take advantage of your ability to have people walk in the door and touch and feel something, and to know that you're going to help them and give them easy returns, and that you're going to give them your expertise, right? So I really rely on Dee's judgment about what I should wear, and that's something she can package that I can't look at clothes online and get nearly as much expertise as I can right from her personally.
Awesome.
These tips that you've given too, as far as, just being able to use technology to help customize the experience for the customer, that seems to help with this problem. One of the challenges small business owners said that trying to be open later hours, that didn't really help. So having the lights on longer doesn't help, but being able to customize people or have people be able to use technology after hours so that when you are open during regular hours, that seems to be a good way to go.
Yeah, that is a good way to piece those two things together. And using technology, you can reach us anytime, as well as if you do something like the call ahead trick, that gives you something to be doing when you first start opening later hours. You say, call ahead, we'll have it ready right after you get off work, and we're open from 5 to 6, right? Or then 5 to 6:30, right? You can slowly extend your hours because you're giving people a reason that they need to stop by, and so you've got built-in customers for that new time frame, instead of just standing there staring at the wall going, why did I do this to myself?
Well, and I guess I just want to highlight one thing too, because I found it interesting that the number one thing was can't find good employees, because it seems like that's just a nationwide thing, right? And so I think sometimes when we think about small town merchants versus bigger town merchants, or small city merchants, or city merchants, or whatever, well, everybody's having that same issue. So you don't always look at yourself in isolation too, I suppose, on either side.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot more that we have in common than we ever realized. Now, our target market is to work with people who are in small towns and who are in rural areas, because so much that's written for big city businesses by default, assumes you have a 1 million person customer base to draw from. And in a small town, you may have a few thousand.
Yes.
If you're a bigger small town. So we have some challenges that are different, but things like finding good employees, no, that is something we all share.
More solutions for rural small business challenges are coming up after this word from our sponsor, financialfreedomtool.com. Plenty of money for life.
Do you feel doubt when making money decisions? Let the Financial Freedom Tool be your decision-making guide 24/7, 365 days a year, so you can make your next money moves with confidence. Learn more at financialfreedomtool.com.
Today, we're joined by Becky McCrae and Deb Brown, co-founders of SaveYour.Town. They recently released the results of their survey of challenges that rural small businesses face.
In the survey, respondents told you what's working best in their rural communities. Can you fill us in more about their answers?
Absolutely. The one of those is, it kind of fell into these three groups of traditional economic development groups, and then people just informally copying ideas, and then formal programs that they might join.
And Becky, can I just interject? What does it mean? I have a sense of it maybe, but I'm not sure I'm right. So what does it mean when you say informal idea copying?
That's when you see somebody did something good, and so you steal it.
Gotcha. Okay. Just what we thought, but wanted to make sure.
So traditional economic development groups, informal idea copying, and formal programs.
Yep.
We want to tell you some of the, in their own words, sort of things to
Mm-hmm.
go with that as well. So interestingly, one of the first things that stands out is a lot of people talk about working together. So one quote is, one person said, "Teamwork is what is working and working best. What isn't working is thinking that the money pool is the economic development group or the chamber."
Interesting.
Now, another group said that they did a tour of empty buildings, which is an idea that Deb Brown actually came up with. And so they said the empty building tour worked well. We will be planning another one for the fall. And getting everyone working together is not working well for them. So, every community is different.
Mm-hmm.
Each has their own challenges. And that is one reason that we do this survey, to find out how these are different between the different communities. One of the other responses that I thought was worth talking about is, one person says, after losing some major employers, some people have opened businesses. Also, some spin-offs are related to those remaining businesses. Landing the big one, that outside employer, has not been successful. And that's, again, going against one of those stereotypical things that we hear about in small towns, is like, oh, we're going to get that big one score and they're going to, employ everybody, bring good jobs to town. But that's not actually what people are telling us when they talk on the survey. So there's lots of variation in what people are doing, but we see a lot of encouraging things of people just trying to do things a little more informally and a little less in the old way, the way that it's always been done.
Which is hard to overcome, yes?
Yes.
So let's talk then. What are some action steps for? We've kind of talked about businesses, but beyond businesses, even those who support businesses, consumers. What can people do to overcome the small town challenges?
Well, that's a really good question. And if you give me a minute, my dog will stop barking. Sorry. She's new and we're trying to get her trained here. So, using our survey results, we actually, Becky and I, put together a free video of action steps you can take to shape the future of your town or the towns that you serve. The video is for chambers, tribes, government officials, agencies, any people who are charged with supporting small towns and rural communities. So, and it's available again at no charge. We know that regular people who care about their town and want to make it a better place, are important to reach out to them. And, especially if you've ever faced opposition or struggled to make headway, this is a video that you want to see, definitely. And I know Becky's got a few words to share on that too.
Oh, yes. When we pulled together the survey results, we noticed that there were three big themes that really stood out, where there's some actions that people can take. One of them is the difficulty of getting things going, getting anything started, and then keeping it going. And that is just difficult to overcome burnout and keep things going, and
I was gonna say,
that
Becky,
whole inertia of old way and getting committees motivated. And so
it sounds like my diet.
I get that. I do.
I mean, we personally can see that, because we face the same challenge. So for a town to do it, you can understand it would be difficult.
It is. And so one of the solutions is to take advantage of the new technology of communication that's available to us and do things with less overhead, less formality, and do things as informally as possible in our communities, which means don't form a committee. What if we didn't elect officers, right? Don't immediately assume you have to take this to an existing organization to get them involved. How could you do something really small to test it out and see how that would work best? The second major theme that we found was people have trouble keeping up with the rapidly changing business environment. And this is what we've just been talking about.
Yep.
Technology, the changes in marketing, trying to keep up with what your customers are doing, keeping up with all the changes in the retail world or in any kind of business. We all face these similar challenges, just keeping up with how fast things are changing. So one of the action steps you can take is to get businesses working together in a way that they can support each other. Entrepreneurship will become more self-supporting when the entrepreneurs support each other. And then finally, the third big challenge that we ran into is any variation of this, which is other people just don't do what we tell them to. They're just not doing it right. Why are they doing it that way? We want them to do it the way we want them to do it. So that challenge, I think we can all sympathize with. And it's one that really takes a little bit more than just, one quick tip to fix, but it really involves changing your mindset and finding out what you can do as a starting point, and not worry so much about what are those other people doing and why aren't they doing it the right way?
Instead of my way. Well, so I will tell you, I found this study fascinating because my first real business was a Ben Franklin store in my hometown, and we were right squarely on Main Street. So my heart's with Main Street. I love just seeing what you guys are doing. It's amazing.
And you can get more. We just touched on some of the things that are in this survey. You guys, there's much more to learn. And all you have to do is go to SaveYour.Town/survey. And that's where you can get more information, correct?
Absolutely. That will take you to a little page where we present some of the results, and then you still have the option of getting that video where we talk about solutions, and there's no charge for that. You just sign up for free.
Fantastic. Well, Becky and Deb, it's just, I think everybody now knows why we became friends with you, because you're just so wonderful, and you just shared so much information, so much helpful information for entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for sharing that with our audience today.
Thank you for having us today. We really appreciate it too. Good to hear from you.
Appreciate it.
And we thank you so much for listening.
Until next time,
Here's to your big success.
Tips to be your best with the professor and Mary-Lynn for your big success.
Find big success at biggsuccess.com.